Welcome back to Somewhere to Start. In front of me, I have a G Phrygian handpan, which was made popular by an artist named Sam Meyer. Unlike the last one of this scale I did, this one is actually voiced the same way that Meyer had his handpan set up. The one I did last time had this note underneath. Now, the notes on this pan are C sharp 3, G sharp, A, B, C sharp 4, D sharp, E, F sharp, and G sharp. I really like the voicing of this scale. There's just something about the Phrygian scales that are different enough than major and minor scales that sound very unique, as well as enough similarities that you can pluck parts of the scales to make them sound very reminiscent of either. Very, very familiar in that sense. Some nice intervals in here that I gravitate towards immediately. You have your octaves, G sharp and your G sharp, C sharp and your C sharp. You have your perfect fifths. Nice that you got 5 of them on here. You got your perfect fourths. Nice and easy to reach. You don't really have to think about the placement of them too much. You have some nice chords in here too. You got G sharp minor, A major, B major, and C sharp minor. This scale, because of how versatile it is, it's easy to play a lot of fast melodies. But it also is easy to play some slower melodies on it. And both sound pretty nice with this scale. So I find it a good scale that's versatile in terms of player type, as well as note-wise. It's good enough for if you're kind of more on the intermediate. There's enough consonants in there that it's not overwhelmingly difficult to pick notes that sound good. And there's enough consonants in there for some more challenging melodies. You got a couple half steps in there. That G sharp to that A, D sharp to that E, and then you have your major seconds, your B to C sharp, and your F sharp to G sharp. And the fun thing about having that nice blend of both is you can create some more complicated and moving melodies. Because I find when you have more dissonance, it wants to move a little bit more, be a little bit more lyrical. But when you have a lot more consonants, you can slow down a little bit and play some more chords. And they both seem to flow just as nicely. So I could easily see someone having a lot of fun writing some songs on this pan. And something that sings very nicely for my tastes, I like having that low ding. I find anything below a D sharp or a D3 has this nice warmth to it in the bass that you wouldn't normally get out of a pan that's got something like an F3 or a G3. Where in this case, the second lowest note being a G sharp 3, you get a timbre difference in certain ranges. So some of the higher notes, you get that nice mix of that upper register where it sings a little bit differently. So I think of it as you got 3 or 4 different timbre differences in the notes themselves, which make voicing certain melodies easier. If you're doing something where you got a moving bass, but you add a couple notes towards the top end to be more of a melody, You can have a lot of fun there. And again, that C sharp just is a nice kind of home base for everything else. And Avery, I know you've been excited about getting this pan for quite a while, and I hope you grow and mesh with it the way you think you will and the way you'd like to. I find that every pan has just like every person, has a unique personality, and so different people and different personalities bond to different scales differently. This is one of those scales that I enjoy picking up and playing with and have a hard time putting down. There are a couple where great sounding pans, just the note choice doesn't quite resonate with me. And I know you took your time to really think about what you wanted out of a pan, and you just kept coming back to that same scale that Sam has. And I see why. It's just a fun one to keep coming back to. And I find myself looking for excuses to take it with me somewhere, to tap around with it anytime I take a journey somewhere. And I didn't learn much of the Sam Maher tune. It is way more difficult than I thought it would be. The only bits I can offer you are that very beginning where he does that arpeggiated thing, if you think of it in numbers for the notes he's using for that side, 1, 2, 3. He's just doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. I think in the way he teaches it, he does it with the fifth, and the way he does it in the original video, he does it here. I think it sings and sounds nicer when you use that fifth, but that's just a little personal preference. That can easily be swapped out for whatever you prefer. It's very simple. He kind of just repeats that a couple times, and he'll end that phrase with the F sharp G at the very top, and then he'll shift to this side. He'll do it on the B, D sharp, and F, the same pattern. And then he'll come down these 3 notes to transition back to the. And that's about as far as I had the time to really take it and start trying to learn it. I'm probably going to have to make the skill again at some point so I can actually learn that tune, because it looks like a lot of fun. Definitely much bigger a challenge than it sounds like. And I remember how difficult it is trying to pick up somebody else's handpan playing from when I learned the solo Daniel Waples did on that same pan. Even stuff that sounds simple, crazy difficult, and he's got a ton of movement in this and a couple polyrhythms in there that I can walk you through the rhythm for what he's doing. I just don't have the time to take the patience to sit and pluck out each individual note as much as I'd like to. It'd be a lot of fun. And I'm sure whenever you take up the challenge to learning that scale, it's going to be a fun challenge. Learning that song is going to be a fun challenge. So hope when this eventually gets to you, this pan is everything you've wanted, especially our first pan. Pretty happy for the most part with the nitriding on it. I'm still tweaking my process a little bit because you can see where the black layer from the hammering of the notes was worn down to the white layer. So there's 2 layers in the nitriding. If you think of it, you have your raw steel. When the chemical bonds to it, you build up a white layer, which is like a diffusion layer, and then you get that black oxide layer on top of that, which is only a few microns thick. It's not that thin. Oh, sorry, not that thick. So unfortunately, I'm still working on getting some of the spots for an adhesion thing, and I also had that issue with the heat treat where uh, my kiln's wiring just crapped out on me mid heat treat for the first time around, so that wasn't terribly fun, but it happens. Still made it work. It's really just an aesthetic thing. Functionally, the nitride is there the way it needs to be, and you have the steel hardening as well as the corrosion resistance effects from that heat treat are still on here and relevant. The aftercare and all of that, all you really gotta do is clean it every 4 to 6 weeks. Take a paper towel with some isopropyl alcohol, wipe it down, give it a nice once over, and then you come back at it with, I recommend Seal 1, which is a type of gum lube that also happens to be food grade, so you can eat it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's just kind of a tasteless jelly, but if you're like me and you feel like you need to know, you can. And I find that to be the best one. I know some people like Phoenix oil and stuff like that, and I've always found Phoenix oil leaves a very sticky residue on the pans. Seal 1 I've never had an issue with. Wipe a little bit on. If you wipe a little bit too much on, come back at it with a dry paper towel. You don't really need much per each surface. And I will happily go over that with you in more detail if you ever need, / send you a PDF of care and feed, how to take care of it. But like I said, psyched to be sending this to you. It's unfortunate that plans changed and you can't come up and meet me this time, but there'll be other opportunities in the future, I'm sure. So anyway, this has been somewhere to start. Hope you enjoy this glimpse into your pan before you end up getting your hands on it. Let me know what you think. Take care.